I think that's what Eminem has done, and he's done great in it. And another thing is you have to realize that when you're in the business, you have to keep green before black or white. And I think that Eminem has done a great job at that.
I like that. Keep green before black and white. Jelisa, why do you think that Eminem was able to succeed in such a predominantly African-American market?
I just want to say, like, he's talented. When you're talented, regardless of what race you are, it can take you far. And as far as him appealing to the black market, is basically his background. It's truly his upbringing. He lived it, and his emotions and pain pours out through his music, and I think that his listeners receive that.
And I think once people were able to realize that Eminem wasn't about any games, you know, I think once people realized, oh, okay, this man is really talking about something. Yeah. This man is real.
I watched 8 Mile.
8 Mile. I'm telling you.
Yes. And I think once people realized that, you know, this man wasn't playing about what he was doing. He was serious. And I think once people were able to see that, then they started to take him seriously.
Yes.
Because a lot of people, just like many other Caucasian artists who have come into the hip hop and rap industry, they were seen as a joke in the beginning until they were able to come in and earn their respect. And that's another thing I wanted to touch base on. Is it racism when African Americans look at a Caucasian performing in a market that is dominated by them meaning African Americans, and they look at them with I call it a turned head. You know how something, when something's kind of iffy or not right, you kind of look at it with your head turned to the side a little bit, like, that's interesting. Do you feel that that's racism? Do you feel that's prejudice?
Yes, I do believe it's prejudice, because anytime you form an opinion from someone just looking outside without following up their talents, listening to their music, you don't know his work. You're judging him based off seeing a white man becoming a rapper. That's prejudice, because you need to take the time to actually listen to his music, hear his story, learn something about him before you judge what he does.
Radriequa, do you feel that that's racism when people, when African Americans are looking at a Caucasian man and with a turned head?
I definitely do feel like that is a source of racism, but you have to realize you can't really help when you do things like that because it's of your nature. If you was brought up like not in a in a home where you see white people, when you see one rapping, you're like, oh, what is he doing? So it's part of our nature. We can't help it. But yes, it is a form of racism.
Yeah, I think it is a form of prejudice. That no, this music belongs to black people. Why is a white person singing, and why is a white person doing our music? You have to remember, people out there listening, hip hop and rap and any other genre of music, it's an art. It's in form of art. And when those genres of music are created, they're not created for any particular group of people. It's something that is to be shared and listened to by everyone. Because one thing that my mother tells me this all the time, in order to make money, you have to reach out to everybody. You have to. And if Eminem was to get on the stage, and the reason black people chose not to listen to him just because he was Caucasian, and it was only the Caucasian audience that was listening to him, well, then he wouldn't have the money from African Americans buying his music and a bunch of other ethnic groups buying his music. Like I said, you have to be global. You have to be universal, and I believe it needs to be the other way around. Not only does the artist who's reaching out to his or her listeners need to be universal, but the listeners themselves, we have to be universal and know, hey, anybody can do any kind of music. Remember Daddy Yankee? Dame más gasolina. Dame, okay. You remember? Okay, exactly. So I'm sure, when he first came out, I know I did. I kind of look at it like, huh? With a turned head. So, I'm guilty of it too. We're all guilty of it. I think once we realize that this is the world we're talking about, people, and especially music, it's so broad. It's everywhere. And it doesn't belong to a specific group of people. And, the hip-hop community was not accepting of Eminem when he first came onto the scene. And many people may not even realize that he has a lot of international flavor in himself. World News Incorporated is reported that Eminem is of Scottish, English, German, Swiss, Polish, and possibly, how do you pronounce this word? Luxembourgian. Luxembourg, by the way, is a country in Western Europe. It's bordered by Belgium, France, and Germany. So he's got a lot in him too. So if you ask him, what race are you, he'll probably just say other. He probably in his eyes, he's not even white. And that's another thing too people need to realize. And other later on to the show we're going to discuss misconceptions in people's ethnicity and how people think that you're one race when you're actually another. This man has a lot of flavor in him, and just by his ethnicity, his ethnic background, his ability to produce hip hop music, it's amazing. And do y'all own any Eminem CDs? Y'all have any CDs by Eminem?
I have some of his old music, like on my iPod, but I don't have any of the CDs anymore.
Okay. What about you, Radriequa? You have any of his CDs?
I'm a fan, but I really don't buy CDs anymore, just to be honest.
Oh, okay. You download this? You download off the internet now?
No comment.
No comment. Okay.
She pays for her download.
Okay, she pays for download. Clear. Now, another thing that I wanted to get into, ladies, was excuse me, racial stereotypes and racial slurs. The thing about racial stereotypes is everyone has them. Every race has a racial stereotype, whether it's this or that. And I want to discuss how sometimes the racial stereotypes can be stopped by the individuals themselves. You can stop people from stereotyping against you. One thing I wanted to discuss was sagging. Oh yes, sagging. We all know what it is. When your pants hang rather low, below the buttocks and exposing things such as draws and other areas of your body that we won't go into right now. But sagging, when people see this, that's a stereotype that this person is a thug, a gangster, or as we call them, hoodlums or hood rats. Just as women, what goes through your mind when you see young men who sag? Anybody?
Young, uneducated, misled. Basically, they don't know, how to properly carry themselves, or what that truly means, or where sagging actually originated from, which is in the prisons. So I just when I see a young man like that, I just he's very young-minded. Maybe he's lost, confused.
And I noticed you said the word uneducated in regards to the sagging. What if you actually went up to a young man who was sagging and you were to ask him some questions? And
I did that,
and he gave you educated responses. Would that kind of change your mind about what you?
I mean, I didn't mean uneducated in terms of he doesn't know anything, or not very knowledgeable. I meant like in terms of he doesn't know where that originated from, what that really means.
What you had your hand up, Radriequa?
Yeah, I actually did that one day. A young man was sagging, and I was like, "Excuse me, I asked you a question." I'm very, very outgoing. And I was like, "I asked you a question." He was like, "Yes." I was like, why do you sag? Do you think that this like swag, as they say, or like what is that about? And he was like, this is how of my pants. And I was like, do you know that came from jail when you suggested you want an inmate to get with you on other terms? And he was like, I never knew that. I said, well, how about tomorrow when you get dressed, you pull your pants up and tighten your belt? And he's like, we could do that.
And I think that's a good idea that you suggested that, because I'm not even gonna lie. I remember back when I was in my middle school days, I used to sag. I thought that was cool. I used to have my pants hanging all down below my butt, belt halfway buckled, and I thought that was cool. I wanted to do what I thought was cool at the time, and so I sagged my pants. And now I see that is it's a negative connotation, and it's a stereotype.
And it's
not cute.
It's so unattractive. I do not date any guys who pants sag. Like, how you get a job like that? What, really?
Exactly.
No.
I don't want to look at your butt anyways. Like, just hanging out your pants. Like,
not even.
And another thing that I wanted to touch on, ladies, was education, class, how someone speaks. These are also fall under the stereotype umbrella. Say if you encounter an African American individual who is speaking like this, who is speaking very, very, very dignified, very proper. What do most people say about that particular person? Tell the truth.
It's like, they think they white or this or that. I don't think that. I think that, they speak very well.
Mm-hmm. And I also I have a personal story with that. I've had many people come up to me and tell me, you don't sound like you've been around many black people. And my question is, well, what do black people sound like? And I didn't take it offensive. I wasn't offended by it. I just asked them that question. I said, well, what do black people sound like? And my question to them was, so what do I sound like? And they said, well, you sound like a white person. And I said, okay, so you're suggesting that that all white people speak this way and all black people speak this way. They said, well, you sound very educated. I say, so you associate education with Caucasians and not African Americans. Yeah. Okay, so what about intelligence in the African American community? Does that not exist? And so that's why I think when people, when we begin to associate class with this and not having class with that, or as we call it, ghettoism. If you talk ghetto, then that means talking black. And
I think that's very funny, actually, because people come to me and they're like, "Why are you really country?" Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "What does that mean?" They're like, "You just sound like you raised in the back road somewhere." Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, everybody raised in the back road talks like me. I don't hear it, of course, when I speak, mm-hmm. but it's like they associate me with being uneducated because I speak a certain way. Mm-hmm. If I was raised in a house of people who talk this way, of course, that's how I talk. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean we're educated. Just that means that's how we speak in my house. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was very interesting, also. And
you gotta have a lot of people. I was a young boy who grew up in the suburbs, and so for me, I got a different perspective on the world as far as how people are and where they are. As far as I learned that. Just because you're in the suburbs, people associate suburbs with Caucasians, and that if you grew up in the suburbs, then you're supposed to act like this, and if you grew up in the ghetto or the hood, you're supposed to act like this. And so I believe that a racial stereotype is that, well, if you are from an inner city African American neighborhood, then you're supposed to be this hood rat. And then if you don't act in that manner, and you come out actually with some sense, with some intelligence, and with some couth about yourself, couth meaning class, and some sophistication about yourself, then they say, oh, you must have been around white people. And
I just think that is once again so ridiculous, because I have a friend, like my best friend from back home, actually. She made a 36 on her ACT. Mm-hmm. She's from the inner city, as you may say, the projects. Okay, mm-hmm. Yes, she's from that, but she didn't let that define her. Mm-hmm. So I think that's very ignorant for people who to say that, I'm from the projects, people act this way, act that way. No, whatever you're from and whatever you become is two totally different things.
And you have to understand something too. Like I said earlier, education and class is not associated with any particular group of people. That person has to find it within themselves to be classy. Because I have seen some very unclassy, all types of people. True. And so
yes.
And so if people like to call it being ghetto or acting hood and all that. That to me. And that's another word I want to talk about too. What is ghetto?
What is ghetto?
What?
Is ghetto speaking loud? I speak very loudly. Is ghetto the way you dress. I dress a little different, and so does Miss Jelisa, but she's still beautiful. What is ghetto?
To me, ghetto is like I said, it's not a
form of expression.
A lot of people associate it with color. Well, if it's in, that neighborhood has these types of people, it's ghetto.
Well, I've met some ghetto white people. So
Yeah.
what does that mean?
I know some.
And I think, like I said, once people began to realize that ghetto is a behavior.
Yes.
It's how you act that is ghetto, not what you are, the color of your skin, or even where you come from. Ghetto is a mentality. It's a behavior. It's how you present yourself.
Yes, I think ghetto is someone